welcome to the channel. So today we will introduce to you the concept of a sprint retrospective. The sprint retrospective is something we want to have at the end of each sprint cycle. It's really an exercise that must be done and facilitated by the master, and it's where you will learn, about the pros and cons of your current sprint. So one of the things we need to understand is at the end of each sprint is what did we do well, right? And that's important to capture because there are some things you do correct and then there's some things that you didn't do so well. So we will have to understand that. So one of the things we'll understand here is about the sprint velocity. A sprint velocity can be, you know, planned, and there can be also a number associated with it, which is an actual. So the planned is the number that you will have in your poker session or in your sprint planning session, which could be like 100 points, and the actual will be what you actually ended up completing. So was it again the full 100 points, or was it something smaller than that? Was it larger than that? So depending on how well you did, it will impact. The next thing is the burn down itself. So you have a velocity which was planned or an actual, right? And then how did you end up completing that? The burn down chart reflects that. It will show you if it was consistent or if it was a steep slope at the end or beginning of the sprint. I have a chart coming up at the end of this slide where we will actually graphically review that. Next is we need to understand the definition of done. Now, why is that important? So, to get your velocity, you must have completed your stories. And those are done when you have finished some testing, whether it is unit testing or integrated testing, peer testing, QA testing. So, all of those different aspects together, if you have completed successfully, your stories would get done. And when they're done, you get a good velocity. So you can see if you have completed all of these pieces, you must acknowledge it as having done something well or something that's been done good for the sprint. So overall, again, that definition must be very tight. Finally, you must congratulate your team on a sprint well done. So if you had planned 100, you completed 100 points, don't forget to acknowledge that. The next is on the right side, we will now talk about what can we do better, right? So there's some things that we did well, and there are some things that we can learn from and do better in the sprint. So question is, did we drop any velocity, right? So you had planned 100 points, you only did 80. You dropped 20. Why? So the question will be answered by looking at things like resource planning, right? Did you plan for vacations? Did you leave any room in there for unplanned leaves? Did you leave any room in there for urgent reasons? So all of those things together, we need to understand and continuously learn and improve our planning by considering different scenarios that show up each sprint. Similarly, all stories are not equal in a sprint, right? Some are more higher priority, urgent fixes, emergencies. Those definitely you want to always give priority and make sure you get done. So you might have a dropped velocity, but ideally those should be of the lower priority ones. And if you don't do that, then again, that should be captured in your cons section here. The next is requirements. Sometimes you might lose velocity or drop velocity because requirements were not clearly written, not clearly understood, not clearly communicated, not clearly tested. So again, that's something we need to understand and capture and try and improve for the next sprint cycle. It's very important, this piece. Second is environment issues. There can be environmental issues we are all familiar with. hardware, software, licensing, of that kind, desktop issues, VPN issues, firewall issues, right? Nowadays, AWS issues. So all of those things can contribute, and we need to understand what's causing those and plan for them. The next thing is coordination, right? Between users, testers. All of these people uh, work closely, and then we get a story which is done. So if the coordination is lacking for any reason, then we need to understand that and improve upon our processes so that we don't encounter the same problems next sprint cycle. So as you can see, it's clearly a lot of learning in these sprint retrospectives. Management escalations. Why we talking about management escalations? Because escalations need to be strategically invoked to minimize drop velocity. And if we didn't make the right escalations, we need to learn to do those more appropriately. The idea is we should always be talking about the left, not the right. More we talk about the left, which is what we did well, the less we have to learn new lessons, right? So it's overall something we'll always keep in mind. Next is, I said earlier we will review a burn down chart, and the burn down charts here clearly show you what's happening. The left side and the right side. The left side is showing you as a consistent, perfect slope. On the right side, we have some straight lines, some dips, some straight lines, some dips. What the right side shows me is that means stories were getting done more waterfall type. You're doing 3 stories, waiting for QA to approve it, then seeing a dip, then again flatlining here. That means nothing is getting done for 3 days, then again a big dip, and then again like some sort of a slope. So, a burn down chart is very reflective of what your developers, your testers are doing. It's very rare to almost impossible to get a slope of this kind where it is perfect. So with this, I'd like to end this session. The next session, I'm planning to have a video on poker sessions. So I do hope you all will join us for that one. Do appreciate you listening to us today and hope you subscribe to our channel.